Well, to discuss this is Dr. David Matsanga, an African Affairs Analyst. Good to see you, Dr. Matsanga. 34 years, that's the number of years after the assassination of Thomas Sankara. That's a judgment finally delivered. So let's hear how you feel today as an African.
First of all, good evening, viewers. As a Pan-African, I feel vindicated. I feel happy. I rejoice. It is a new era today that at last the man that all of us admired as Africans, as Pan-Africans, his killers have been found. But it teaches us a very big lesson that the colonial master also taught us tactics like Belgium did it to Patrice Lumumba. This has happened in my lifetime that I saw the body of Patrice Lumumba being staged. The bones are in Belgium. Who actually instigates these leaders in Africa to kill each other? That's one of the questions for another day. But today let's focus on Thomas Sankara. Most of us who were old, who were there, we saw the achievement, we saw the changes, we saw his speeches, we learned, we even used some of the speeches. He was one of the few leaders who had come up to say, this is the way Africa should go. The man introduced barter trade, which has never happened in Africa at all. The man said he will use a smaller car instead of the big motorcade, which has never happened in Africa at all. But here we are, we came back to the same thing, the same problem that has killed Africa. You know, the problem that has killed Africa is, in Africa, we have a small economy, but we have the president, the deputy president, about 60 ministers, 100 ministers. We kill our economy through a bloated cabinet that takes out money. I am developing a theory to say, if I become a president in Africa one day, if God likes me to do so, because I don't know what he has kept for me, I would do one thing. I will not have a post of a vice president, because these are the people who kill you.
Well, now quickly, let's return to this, because it was almost getting to be an impossible, justice looking at the 27 years out of the 34 years between the assassination and now. It was almost impossible to bring the former president to book. So do you think Blaise Compaore will now be extradited by Côte d'Ivoire to serve his sentencing?
First of all, he's now an outcast of law in Africa. Where will he go? He has to come back, and maybe because he's under the United Nations Charter as on the status of United Nations refugee status, he can be told to serve sentence in ECOWAS. Côte d'Ivoire is part of ECOWAS, and Burkina Faso is part of ECOWAS. So he can serve his sentence there, because the Geneva Convention of 1954 might not allow his return because of fear of persecution of the current leaders. The leaders in Burkina Faso must tell the world that they will not harm him, they will give him a fair treatment. So he can actually apply under the Geneva Convention, 1954 Convention on the United Nations Refugee and Status. He might stay, and maybe, if they want, you can serve a sentence in those places, because I saw Achampong and others requesting for Kwame Nkrumah to be returned, and that was not possible. I saw most of the people requesting for Idi Amin to be returned. It wasn't possible. So there is that international agreement that keeps them.
So now, Dr. Matsanga, let me jump in here quickly again. So if you talk about some of these impossibilities, which you are very familiar with, do you also think that, what form of assurance do you have with Côte d'Ivoire cooperating with the country to see that Blaise Compaore serves time?
You know that Ouattara is part of the French system in Africa. So it is very difficult. You know, this man who killed Sankara was working hand in hand with the French. And I've told you, whenever you call me on this program, and the world is listening, the French president is listening, let the French change their policy on Africa. They conspire to kill these guys. They conspire to kill presidents and replace them with the people they want. Sankara was conspired on by the external forces that paid this guy, who is in Ivory Coast, to kill him. The Chad president, you know, Idris, was killed. Nobody is talking about the killing of Idris. And yet France knows where these rebels are in southern Libya. We are keeping quiet. Nobody has talked because the chairperson of African Union is a puppet of the French. So let us have a lesson as Africans that there is something wrong here, that our leaders are conspired against. If you look at the conspiracy theories that have killed very good leaders on the continent of Africa, my dear brother, you will just get a shocker. They just conspire to finish you. They just conspire.
Is it if Africans like yourself, if they have the facts and figures of, you know, some interference and, you know, co-conspirators in some of these crimes, why is it difficult for the continent to make, you know, to take such cases to the courts?
We are poor. A beggar doesn't choose. And not because we are poor, because we are poor, not because we want, because somebody has enslaved us. He does our budget for us. France, up to today, controls some of the budgets of West African states, the Francophone-speaking countries. And this is where the coups, you see, look at the coups coming in those French-speaking countries. They are because of bad administration. Administration engineered, fueled by the French. The Mali example can tell you that what Matsanga is speaking is correct. The French were told to leave, and the guys in Mali are fighting the ISIS, and they might win, they will win. But still, the former colonial masters will come back under the table and overthrow you. I have an example, I'm a living example of a government that was working so well in my country in 1971, when I was going to senior secondary school, the same day, Edward Heath, the then Prime Minister of Britain, overthrew Dr. Milton Obote.
That's,
and installed Idi Amin.
Dr. Matsanga, we're out of time, but this is one historic one for the continent, talking about the development concerning the assassination of Thomas Sankara. We'd like to thank you for your time, Dr. David Matsanga, as always.
Thank you very much, my brother. This is a good victory for us today. Thank you.
You're welcome.